guys and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, hello, my name is Emma. I'm back with another book video. I know this is like all you really want, and I did quite a lot of reading in lockdown. So the UK lockdown still isn't over technically, but it's easing a lot. I managed to make it back to London, which was fantastic because it's where my books live, which obviously meant that when I was at home with my parents, I actually ran out of things to like read. Well, of things that I wanted to read there and then. I did what any rational person would do, and I bought books. But I bought quite a lot of books. I didn't think it was that bad until just now. And some of these didn't even spend the mandatory, 2-3 years gestating on my bookshelf. I ordered them and then I read them straight away. So some of these I have actually read, hence why this video will have a part 2, which is everything that I read in lockdown, because it's not just this pile. It's actually quite an impressive pile. I've done really well, guys. The dyslexic in me is incredibly proud. I read so much, mainly because, like I'm sure the rest of you, I had fuck all else to do. And honestly, quite impressively with this pile. If you've watched my channel for long enough, you'll also be impressed. Most of this pile was published in the 21st century. Can you believe it? So these are things I bought, and then also I have a couple extra things that I rescued from my bookshelf at my parents' house. Because I do have a bookshelf there, but it's a lot more like kid, teen, drama stuff, but there are a few things that warranted a place on this bookshelf. And then I had quite a lot of fun having to try and rearrange everything because I came back somehow with so many books. I bought Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun. Me and a couple of my friends have started a book club, my Complit friends, because apparently, even though we did a degree in it, we somehow can't get enough. I bought this. I have already read it. You'll have to stay tuned for what I thought of it. I bought this because my friend chose it. We are all taking turns. So this was her suggestion because I think she's read all of her other books. This is the only historical one. It's set during the Nigerian Biafran War in the 1960s, which I knew nothing about. I don't think any of us did. And as well, being in the UK, like, this is still a part of British history. It's the part the UK loves to turn a blind eye to and will not teach you about, but this is still part of British history, and not a good part, because, you know, the Brits loved their indirect colonial rule. So I think it's important to know that if you've been brought up in this country, because, you know, this country does still benefit very much from colonial wealth and systemic racism and stuff, it's a good read. I'll let you know why in the other video. I haven't read any of her other books, so do let me know which of her other ones you guys really, really recommend. I know Americana is probably her most famous one. Oh, and obviously I've got it in print as well, her TED Talk. What is it? We Should All Be Feminists? Yeah, We Should All Be Feminists. I know this is irrelevant, but the editions are beautiful. There is something so satisfying about beautiful editions, which was going to be my point in one of the next things I bought. But as a dyslexic, 400 pages, yeah, it's 400 pages, was daunting, but man, I got through this so quickly. I do recommend it. I'm very glad I bought it. I don't really have a choice. My friend was like, we're reading this. Very good taste is what I have to say though. I can't believe I bought it and read it and it didn't spend years on my bookshelf. That's really, really impressive for me. Probably for many of you as well, but that was quite impressive for me. I also think actually the structure of a book club is good because it's that motivation, that kick to read, which I can show you because this is another thing that I bought and I have already read it as well. The crowd goes wild. This is another thing that I bought for our book club. This is my recommendation. This is Nancy Mitford, The Pursuit of Love. I also bought another one of hers called Love in a Cold Climate. I haven't actually read this one yet. I'm getting there. And like I was saying about beautiful editions, I know the light's a bit strong, but oh, whew, aren't they pretty? Actually, all of her editions of fiction are these penguin ones? Look at them. Aren't they absolutely beautiful? I've said this before. What grinds my gears about all of my copies of Jane Austen is that they're all in a different edition and it's really irritating. This really hits the sweet spot. So the reason I chose this is because these two are, you know that I love Nancy Mitford. You know. I have now read, as you will learn in the next video, I have read all of her historical biographies. I love them. I really, really enjoyed them. So I decided I would take a look at her fiction. So these are her two most famous novels. The Pursuit of Love and Love in a Cold Climate. Reading Mitford, I think, is very similar to reading, where is he? Brideshead Revisited. It's that like golden age sort of interwar period in the UK. It's like kind of similar to Remains of the Day. I know you all know that I hate it, but it is still relevant. Maybe it warrants a rereading, who knows. They corresponded. Mitford and, I don't know if they knew each other, but they definitely like corresponded, which means they know each other. I don't know how much like in their like everyday lives they knew each other. Am I chatting complete shit, or do I make any sense? But if you enjoyed that, you probably would vibe with these. I think this one is set in India. Is this one set in India? Basically, they're about like the marriage market, which again, you all know from many of the things that I read that I really enjoy that. But this is sort of like, it's this of a tail end of that kind of way our society was structured, you know, in Europe and stuff. It is the end, so it's quite interesting to like see that. And I just think Mitford is just consistently funny. It definitely does resonate with me as a person. Editions are beautiful, and I will buy other ones. This, Love in a Cold Climate, and I think it's something like Don't Tell Alfred. It's all written from the same person's perspective. It's the same narrator telling us the story of these people. Yes, my brain hasn't been switched on in months. And again, this is short, easy to read. I do highly recommend. It's kind of like a slightly more sophisticated version of, you know, those like lists magazines give you of like 20 things to read by the poolside. I can never bear to read anything on those lists because you know it's mind-numbing, which is the point, but you know it's mind-numbing. These are like a couple levels above that. When you still want like your kind of tricky rom-com-ish vibe, but maybe it should not be shit. These will hit the spot. This will definitely hit the spot. I'm looking forward to reading this. Books sort of remind you that you can live someone else's slightly more fantasized life for a little bit in any time and any place. It's like the most fun time machine, and just plain, just moving all about the world and through time, and everything is just so fun about that. When you do follow the same narrator, even though you maybe take different stories, there is a level of comfort in that and a level of familiarity that you get to enjoy. So this comes first, then it's this one, then it's Don't Tell Alfred. There is one big book of Nancy Mitford's like collected novels, which I think is like 1,000 pages or something. Part of me is wondering if maybe I should have bought that, because I probably will buy like all of the others, but these are her two most famous ones in beautiful editions. And maybe I kind of like the satisfaction of having lots of different books on a bookshelf, you know? Then it looks like you read more than if it's just like one big book. Mitford is just, for me, a staple and a classic. Then during lockdown, George Floyd's murder happened, and another wave of Black Lives Matter protests are still happening on Twitter and online and stuff. Like, it's not being brought up as much, but those marches are still happening, those protests are still happening. There was so much stuff going around on social media and a lot of questions about like, it's no longer enough to just not be racist, you should actually be anti-racist, and what is like the passivity of one versus the activity of another. And one thing that people did talk about a lot on like a lot of lists again that were published and stuff were anti-racism reading lists. So as you can imagine, I did have a good look at a lot of those, and I even collated quite a few of them into a reading list on my Goodreads. There's a shelf, it's the BAME book list, I will link it down for you below. And of course I bought some. So I wanted to buy, initially, these were not my first choice actually, initially I wanted to buy Me and White Supremacy, White Fragility, and I can't remember which one the other was, but I looked and they were sold out everywhere. All of these books, by the way, that I ordered, a couple of them I ordered on Waterstones, but they took forever to ship, but then the others I bought on Hive. I think the US version of it is bookshop.org. I asked in a highlight for any others that you guys had, I'll put them on screen, but it's a website on which you can order books via independent bookshops. So you're not supporting like Amazon, you're just actually supporting smaller independent bookshops who have those books in stock that will then send them to you. They came faster and were cheaper than if I had bought them on Amazon. So honestly, it is worth the 5 extra minutes you will spend trying to sort that out than going like via your mum's Amazon account. And that's what a lot of you are doing. It is worth spending money on books and not making Jeff Bezos, or whatever his name is, a fucking trillionaire because he doesn't treat his works very well. So if we're talking about ethics, that's a point to consider too. So what I did end up getting was these 3. Reni, Eddo-Lodge, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, The Good Immigrant, which is a collection of essays, and Bernardine, Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. This one I bought obviously because it's non-fiction. Actually, all of these as well, I think a very important point for the UK is this is all about like British Black history and sort of racism in the UK rather than in America, which is what a lot of those lists obviously were mainly focusing towards. But I obviously want to know more about like the UK and like Black history, and just obviously with the colonial history the UK has, and like when people in this country love to say there's no racism in the UK, I've literally heard that come out of people's mouths before. It is kind of bewildering sometimes. It's like, how can you actually think that? But I think it's very important to know more, because this country does like to, and quite successfully obviously, like to sort of sweep it under the carpet. So especially because in the UK stuff like this history just isn't on the curriculum. So the extent of Black history that I got taught at school, they showed us a picture of a slave ship and then they put on Gone with the Wind. This country also loves to teach the civil rights movement in America, but then they will not teach you about anything here. They won't tell you about the Brixton riots or the Notting Hill riots or the Bristol bus boycott. I learned all of that from this. I'm quite happy that some of it I did like vaguely know and like had been mentioned to me, but I never actually looked into it. I think it is very important to like catch you up on Black British history, I guess is what I'm gonna say, because school did fail us very much. And the fact is, in this country you do get taught a bit of colonial history, but it's always quite like, it's never given a particularly nuanced view of it, which I think is very important. And also just to help you understand the demographics in the UK and stuff like that, you have nothing to lose is what I'm saying by reading this. I have read this, and it's not, as everyone has been saying, enough to just not be racist. You should be actively anti-racist. Have those uncomfortable conversations with yourself, and books are a good facilitator for that. And I think with things like books as well, because this is still a physical commodity, you paid money for it, you're paying people for the emotional labour as well that they've put into these books. Whereas if you're just reading online and stuff, yeah, that shit's all free. So, you know, literally put your money where your mouth is. I have read this, I do recommend reading this. It's not very long, it's like 200 pages, the font is really big. While it can be sometimes uncomfortable to read, it's not like difficult to read, if that makes sense. Next I bought The Good Immigrant. I remember Hannah Witten recommending this ages ago, and I did remember thinking at the time, oh, I should probably read that, and then I didn't. But here we are now. Those of you who don't know, I'm not English, I'm Belgian. My parents came to this country when I was like 1. We're immigrants, so I thought it was quite interesting to read about people's experiences being immigrants in this country who are not white. Like, if you didn't know this about me, you wouldn't know. No one's ever asked me or looked at me and gone, where are you really from though? You know? So I'm quite excited to read this because it's 25, is it 25? It's 21 writers to explore what it means to be Black, Asian and minority ethnic in Britain today. My mum was reading it, she said it was good. I'm really on a personal level, I'm excited to read this because my experience in this country has not been influenced by the colour of my skin. I guess I just want to know what it's like for other people, especially because like, it's immigrants in this country, we are so middle class. My dad's a doctor, my mother is an academic. If you want poster children for the perfect immigrants, there you go. Why? Because you can't tell they're immigrants. What's it like to live in a country that doesn't trust you and doesn't want you unless you win an Olympic gold medal or a national baking competition? I think there's an American version of this as well. If you guys are American, you might be more interested in that. And again, with my selection of these 3, I went very UK focused. For my American viewers, check out the BAME list I compiled though. There are so many recommendations for your country. Yeah, I'm excited to read this, especially because it's essays. So you get lots of different voices, you get that cross-section that you don't get with Eddo-Lodges, why I'm no longer talking to white people about race. Also, topics of white privilege, Eddo-Lodge covers it, and I'm assuming they're gonna be covered in this because obviously the fact that I've never been made to feel unwelcome because of how I look is white privilege. Next, I bought some fiction. This is Bernardine, Evaristo, Girl, Woman, Other. A friend of mine has read it, she said it was really good. This is Britain as you've never read it. This is Britain as it's never been told. From the top of the country to the bottom, across more than a century of change and growth and struggle in life. Girl, Woman, Other follows 12 very different characters on an intertwined journey of discovery. I'm excited. I'm very excited to read this. I know a couple of people have read Queenie, I think gets mentioned a lot in the same sort of lists. A friend of mine has read it, but I think people have said like, this is apparently, if you're gonna pick between 2, this is apparently the better one to read. I do just have to quickly complain, I hate the concept of women's fiction. I hate it so much. I hate the concept of women's fiction. What the fuck does that even mean? There's a sticker on it that says, Women's Prize for Fiction 2020. I hate it. I hate it because novels and novel reading have always been an incredibly female thing. Women love books, women write books, women have always been novelists. I hate the concept of women's fiction because it completely disregards the history of the novel. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I just needed to rant about that quite quickly. I'm looking forward to this. I like reading about women. We like to pretend that women aren't that important, especially when it comes to books. But like I said, do you know anything about books and book history? And obviously, a lot of what I read is very, very white. I live in an incredibly Eurocentric bookshelf. This, and for example, the Half of a Yellow Sun, I think it is important to just consciously try and like decolonialize our own bookshelves. I know this will resonate with you guys because you guys love books. It is about decentering whiteness, thinking about how white is not the default way. The fun thing about books is that you can cover everything. Like I said at the beginning, you can go through all of time and space with a novel. Heck yeah, enjoy that. Don't just read the same shit of the world that you live in and the world that you see every day and the world that you consume every day, because books give you the option to not do that. Why would you stay in your own bubble? This is the complaint grad in me being like, come on. But yeah, decentering whiteness and white is not being default and decolonializing your bookshelf. And that is coming from someone who has always made a conscious effort of trying to do that. I mean, come on, my entire degree I tried to do that, but I still don't think I've done it. I don't know how you guys who have studied other things are doing with that. So that's just a note. This is 500 pages and that kind of scares me, but you know, the thing with reading modern stuff is you do get through it quicker. I'm looking forward to reading this. I think there's sort of the crux of those three as well. It's like working on your own like racial biases and stuff, trying to be more actively anti-racist. It's just about empathy as well. It's like learning and understanding and consuming other people's experiences of this country. Specifically in this case racial, but then also along class lines and stuff, because those two things are very, very closely linked. I really, really want to read, I think it's Angela Davis's Race, Women, Class. I know it's an American one, but I would still quite like to read it. But I certainly do think these books are worth your time. And also, I'm looking forward to the Girl, Woman, Other, because apparently it's just a good book, regardless. Actually, one book that got recommended to us so many times was Adichie's Things Fall Apart. I still haven't bought it, but I really, really want it, and that has been recommended on Complet so many times. So if you want to decolonialize your bookshelf with something that's apparently really fucking good, read that. What else do we have? So, these aren't things I technically bought. Well, I did obviously buy them once upon a time. These are things that I rescued from my bookshelf at home because I decided they're worthy of my time or just deserve to live here. This is The Heart of Darkness. Well, on the concept of like decolonialization. I have read this, I won't talk about it in my other video, but I did take this from home because I think it does belong in my grown-up bookshelf. It's super short, it's like 100 pages. Heart of Darkness is about the Congo. And like I said, I'm Belgian. I just think it's obviously worth knowing more about like your own country's colonial history. Heart of Darkness is also what Apocalypse Now is based off for all my film cinephiles out there. I honestly probably need to reread this. I think I was a bit too young for it when I read it, and I don't think I got enough of it for it to make that much of an impact on me, which is the main reason I bought it back now, is I really don't remember much of it. I actually very vividly remember reading it in the airport just before I was meant to go to, I spent the summer in Harvard, so that's what, 5 years ago now? So I need to reread this because I don't remember shit. A couple things that I never read. You know The Devil Wears Prada was a book? Do you guys know that? First of all, one of my favourite films, absolute classic, can do no wrong ever. It was a book. I bought it in, I think, WH Smith's because I saw it and I was like, obviously I love the film, I want to read the book. I don't know why I've never read it. I think maybe because it kind of, to me, I'm a snob, I'm a pretentious snob when it comes to books. You all knew that. You all like me because of it. Let's not beat around the bush here. The other thing I never read because I associate it with those like poolside mind-numbing reading lists, which probably it doesn't deserve, but that's I think why I've never made the step to actually read it. And trying to like not be as pretentious about books. I think that's why I rescued it, because I was like, maybe you do deserve me reading you. As you'll see with all the stuff I have now read, I think I have a new, because I did the readathon, I have a new sense of like, oh, actually, I'm just being a massive pussy the entire time and I can read probably a book in a day. I need to not be a baby about that and actually like enjoy more contemporary stuff, because I always worry about it not being worth my time. So now I've got to stop being a baby, and I think this probably is worth my time. When did I buy this? It's literally got dust on it. Oh my god, Emma. It was published in 2003. Interesting. When Andrea first sets foot in the plush Manhattan offices of Runway, she knows nothing. She's never heard of the world's most fashionable magazine, or its feared or fawned over editor, Miranda Priestley, her new boss. We all know it's based on Anna Wintour, but apparently they meet in the book, or the other one, there's a sequel, and they don't like each other. As somebody who wanted to be Miranda Priestley and Williamina Slater, kind of maybe Anna Wintour, I can't believe I haven't read this by now. Maybe I'll wait till it gets 20 years old and then I'll be like, oh, now it's nostalgia. And the very last thing that I rescued from home, Nellie Bly, Around the World in 72 Days and Other Writings. I have no idea why I bought this, and I have no idea why I haven't read it. As well, being a Penguin classic, I just like, well, maybe you just deserve to be here. I just rescued the books that I hadn't read, with the exception of Heart of Darkness, as I explained. In 1885, Elizabeth Jane Cochrane, pen name Nellie Bly, was hired as one of the first female journalists after writing a scathing rebuttal to a misogynist newspaper in the Pittsburgh Dispatch. Journalism, yeah. That's probably why I haven't read it. I think as I mature, I just stop being a baby and start reading more things that maybe I wouldn't have picked up necessarily. I'll read this. God knows when, but maybe I will. There we have it. That is everything that I bought in lockdown and / rescued from him. Honestly, I'm quite impressed with this list. I already dropped the books, I'm not going to drop them again. What shocked me the most really is the fact that lockdown drove me to buy books and then read them straight away. That really hasn't happened to me before. Let me know down below though, how long does a book have to be on your bookshelf before you actually read it? I just gotta know. I know we've all done this. I mean, for God's sake, what was mine? On my 30 before 30 list, one of them is to read all the books I already own. And the older I get, the more I'm like, that's just not fucking happening. Like, I don't know why I put that on there, because it is just not happening. I don't know why. There's no reasonable or rational reason why. It's just one of my other ones. And then the fact that I actually bought these and read them straight away kind of blew my mind. But yeah, that's everything I bought. And like I said, some of them are read. So stay tuned for next week, because I will of course put up everything I read in lockdown. Guess who's been watching too much skincare by Hiram. Also have to share with you. Oh, my t-shirt. It's only a Harry fucking Styles t-shirt. See, I coordinated the green with the green, but you're not really getting to enjoy it. I enjoy it though, because I know it's there. So yeah, that's everything I bought. Stay tuned to find out everything I read. Like, subscribe and all that jazz, and I will see you guys on Sunday with a new episode of the weekly vlog. Bye! And welcome back to my channel. Oh, hello. My name's Emma. If you're new, that's not my intro. Hi guys, and welcome